Linley lunged forward, grabbing the wild rabbit by the throat with one hand. With a sharp snap, the struggling creature twitched a couple of times before going still. Ever since witnessing those two battles half a year ago, the bloodlust from his dragon blood lineage was beginning to surface. Linley smiled as he gripped the rabbit, reflecting, "I've reached Tier 1 as both a warrior and a mage, but magic still holds the edge in attack power." Mages were typically divided into 9 levels, with reaching the first tier being fairly straightforward. However, as one advanced through the levels, the time needed to progress increased significantly. For many powerful Tier 7 or 8 mages, it could take a century of effort to move up just one level. For those with strong aptitude, reaching Tier 1 as a mage could be achieved in just 6 months. Even those with average talent, if they met the requirements, could attain Tier 1 within 2 to 3 years. Holding the dead rabbit tightly, Linley raced down the mountain. "Linley, why don't you roast it first?" "The rodent loves meat, but roasted meat is its favorite," Dennis's voice echoed in Linley's mind. "I bet you have never dealt with kids before, have you, old man?" Linley teased as he ran. Dennis was taken aback. As a revered archmage of the realm, he certainly had no grandchildren and had never engaged in coaxing a child. No, I haven't," he admitted. Linley confidently explained, "I often persuade little Wharton, and it's similar with the cub. You can't start by giving kids too much, or they'll always expect more. Right now, the rodent is gnawing on rocks. If I give it raw meat, it'll be thrilled. I'll feed it raw meat for a week, then switch to roasted meat, and it'll be even happier." Dennis immediately understood the strategy. Throughout history, great leaders had applied this principle when managing their subordinates: begin with modest rewards, then gradually increase incentives. Offering too much too soon would only set unrealistic expectations, making it difficult to maintain motivation over time. The books I've read mention this idea in relation to training monkeys, the concept of giving less initially and more later, like starting with fewer treats and increasing them over time, works much better than the reverse, Linley chuckled. Dennis suddenly realized that despite being only 18, Linley was no less smart than many adults. As he reflected, he acknowledged the effectiveness of the Wolfram family's approach to education. Knowledge was the gateway to wisdom, yet, for most people, it remained out of reach. Prestigious magic schools and combat academies demanded tuition and entry requirements far beyond what ordinary folk could afford. Returning home with a rabbit in hand was a common sight in the village. In fact, ever since Linley had mastered the ground spike spell, he frequently brought home wild rabbits and other smaller animals. "I wonder if the rat will eat what humans offer it." Taking a deep breath, Linley entered the cluster of old houses behind the family estate and carefully approached where the rat was known to dwell, step by step, without making a sound. Linley scanned the courtyard of the ancient house, which was littered with broken stones and withered leaves, creating an eerie, desolate atmosphere, and wondered where the rat had gone. Some stones still bore bite marks, but after searching the entire courtyard, Linley found no trace of the rodent. Feeling a wave of disappointment and discomfort, he said, "Old man, we've just been gone an hour and the rodent is nowhere in sight." A bright light emerged from the dragon ring and gradually took the form of Dennis, who appeared dressed in his white robe. Dennis also frowned. "Well, that can't be right. It's just been an hour. I expected it to be here for at least a little while longer." Suddenly, the familiar soft crunching sound rang out again. Linley's eyes brightened as he immediately walked towards an old, crumbling courtyard next to him. At the doorstep, he clearly saw the black nightshade rodent busily gnawing on a stone, as if shaping it into something unique. Linley walked towards the doorstep, creating a loud noise. The black-furred creature quickly darted back several meters, hiding itself. Its 2 small, round eyes watched the doorstep, immediately spotting Linley with a wary gaze. "Come, I have food for you." Linley smiled slightly at the rat and tossed the wild rabbit onto the doorstep. The beast might not understand human words, but Linley knew that creatures with higher intelligence should grasp the meaning of a smile. Magical creatures possessed intelligence almost equal to that of humans, and some powerful ones were exceptionally shrewd. Linley reminded himself not to be impatient and left, though he was reluctant. As he walked away, the rodent hesitated briefly until it could no longer resist and darted to the doorstep, glancing into the distance. By then, Linley had already walked off to a certain distance away from it. Seeing the wild rabbit in front of it, the rodent suddenly became excited, standing up and jumping around happily, while also taking cautious steps towards the meat. It then swiftly tore into the rabbit meat, its sharp teeth efficiently reducing the meal to nothing. Although the rodent wasn't large, it completely consumed the wild rabbit, which was larger than itself, leaving nothing behind, not even a single bone fragment. The young nightshade rodent swallowed and then patted its belly, looking delighted with an expression that seemed almost human. Compared to rocks, meat was obviously much more delicious. After eating, the rodent looked in the direction Linley had gone, feeling a growing fondness for him. Being young and newly born, it felt a sense of anticipation, wondering if Linley would bring it another wild rabbit to eat. Before dinner that day, Linley wondered if the young rat would eat the food he had left for it as he walked among the cluster of old houses behind the family estate, heading straight for the courtyard of the old house where he had thrown the wild rabbit that afternoon. "Linley, don't worry. It's just a young creature. Very gluttonous." Dennis's voice rang out in Linley's mind. Linley nodded slightly and soon reached the doorstep. He saw some bloody rabbit fur at the doorstep, but the flesh, blood, and bones of the rabbit were all gone. Seeing this scene, Linley's eyes immediately brightened. Great. Linley clenched his fist. The first step was successful, and from here on out he would need to stay persistent. The next afternoon, Linley killed a wild rabbit and a pheasant. He left the rabbit for Shane to roast for dinner, while he placed the pheasant at the usual spot on the doorstep of the old house courtyard. Linley chuckled as he noticed the nightshade rodent watching him from the courtyard. "Linley, it seems things are looking up. The rodent didn't immediately flee when it saw you, which means it's becoming less hostile towards you." Seeing this, Dennis felt quietly happy for Linley. It was indeed fortunate to come across the offspring of a powerful creature. However, Dennis wondered what the young creature's parents were up to. Linley tossed the pheasant onto the doorstep, exchanged a few words with the young creature, chuckled, and stepped back as he usually did. But this time he didn't leave directly. Instead, he walked while looking back. The young creature darted out after a while, glanced around, and seeing Linley in the distance, it didn't seem too frightened. It directly lowered its head and started tearing into the pheasant. As the days passed on, the third, fourth, and fifth Linley continued his routine, each day bringing him closer to earning the trust of the young creature. Linley continued his daily routine of meditation and training, while frequently bringing wild rabbits and other prey to feed the young nightshade rodent. Everyone in the village remained unaware that Linley was practicing magic. Similarly, they didn't know that Linley was caring for a dire creature that, even as a child, possessed the strength of a Tier 4 creature. Only Dennis, who watched Linley grow up, understood this well. This small village won't let the boy grow much further. Watching Linley meditate and train his arcane energy, Dennis felt a trace of anticipation. One day, he will accompany the fully grown nightshade rodent and step onto the grand stage of the realm.
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.